Define property. Explain the general principles of transfer of property. Okay. So these three acts are crucial to understand the word property. They are Transfer of Property Act 1882, Indian Easements Act 1882, and Benami Transactions Act 1988. So the term property is defined in Benami Transactions Act 1988. So the definition of property is property refers to the legal rights over resources. A right means what? Right to possess it, sell it, use it, get some interest out of it. So here the property can be tangible or intangible. Tangible property is nothing but real property. Intangible properties are like intellectual properties, cannot be seen, touched. Tangible properties are real properties, physical properties. So we can touch the property, we can see it, we can measure it. They are called tangible properties. So the Transfer of Property Act applicable on both tangible and intangible. So these are the general principles of the transfer of property. The first one is transfer of property, Section 5 of the Act. So the transfer of property is an act which a living person conveys property. We need to understand here is transfer of property happen between two living persons only. So please be note, we when there is one or more, two or more living persons, then only we can say the property as transfer of property. Next one, types of property transferable. Section 6 of the Act states that property of any kind may be transferred. That means tangible, intangible, corporeal, incorporeal, any type can be transferred. There is one exception. Otherwise, it is provided by Act or other law. Okay. Otherwise, all of the properties can be transferable. And the third point in general principles, competency to transfer. So this competency is defined under section 7. So every person who is competent to contract can be entitled to transferable property. So we'll see what is competent to contract in next slides. There are some key sections of the Transfer of Property Act, like section 5, definition of transfer of property, and section 6, what may be transferred, tangible and intangible properties, and section 122, definition of gift, and section 123, transfer by gift. There are types of transfers available. The first one is sale. Sale is very simple. Transfer of ownership, exchange for a price. A sells his property. Example is person A sells his property to person B. So the property is a consideration and A will get some amount of money. So that is simple sale. And mortgage. Mortgage is transfer of interest in property as security for a loan. For example, a person mortgages his land and taken some money from the mortgagee. So what will happen if the person defaults? Uh, the mortgagee can actually hand over the entire property. So in mortgage type, uh, the property can be used as a security for a loan. And then third one is lease. Lease is different. Uh, Transfer of right to enjoy the property for a certain time in exchange of rent. So this is not permanent. This is for a duration, maybe 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, like that. And the fourth one is exchange. Transfer of ownerships of one thing for ownership of another. I'll give you an example. A is having a home, flat, or apartment, something in Mumbai. B also has an apartment in Kolkata. So A and B can exchange their flats. I mean, if they are okay with it, they can exchange. That is called exchange. Transfer of ownership from one thing for ownership of another. And finally, gift. Transfer of property without any consideration. Okay. These are the essential elements of a valid transfer. The first one is competent to contract. So, competent to contract means, uh, for example, uh, the person must be of the person must be a major, that is age of 18 years or above, and who is a sound person, who is not an unsound mind and not an intoxicated. So these things, competence. And a person who is of 18 years old and sound mind can enter into a contract to sell his property to another individual who is also 18 years old and mentally competent. So competent to parties means that one. And the second one is transferable property. Uh, okay, I'll give you an example. A piece of land owned by an individual can be transferred through a sale deed. So that is transferable. There are examples like there are some properties like an interest in a partnership firm may not be transferable without the consent of other parties. So this is called transferable property. And the third one is consideration. It says consideration must be lawful. I'll give you an example. If A agrees to sell his bicycle for B for 5,000 rupees. A wants to sell his bicycle to B for 5,000 rupees. The consideration is money here. It is lawful. However, if, for example, A agrees to sell his cycle in exchange for illegal drugs, so that consideration not be lawful. So, according to essential elements of transfer, consideration must be lawful. So, this is important. And final last one is formalities. Formalities is nothing but some we have to do some legal formalities for every valid transfer. For example, sale of immovable property valued 100 rupees above. A registered sale deed must be executed. So registration is mandatory. That's what we are saying. Yeah. Thank you.